Okay, so today's lesson is going to be volumes of cones. And then cones, when they're intersected by planes, a couple things happen. So every section of a cone that's made by a plane that passes through the vertex and the lateral surface area is going to be a triangle. So what they're just saying here is if you were to slice a cone by a plane through that vertex and then open it up, what you're going to see is a triangle. The other part is, well, if you take a plane and you intersect the cone parallel to the base of the cone, then what happens is the figure that's generated by that slice happens to be a circle. Okay. In terms of the formula, we've got this little YouTube video. Exciting maybe, exciting not, but here we're going to play it. Here you go. Okay, so basically what's happened here is you can see that just like the pyramid, it took 3 of the cones to fill the cylinder, or the pyramid took 3 of the pyramids to fill the prism. So the volume of a cone, with the height of the solid being h and the area of the base being big B, is going to be 1/3 the area of the base times the height. Or, because you know what the base is going to be in terms of a circle, the volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. So find the volume of each to the nearest tenth. You're definitely going to need your calculators. So what happens here is volume equals 1/3 pi r squared h. It turns out that we're looking for, I'm going to divide it all by 3, so I'm going to put in pi. The radius happens to be 10, so it's going to be times 100 because 10 squared is 100. The height is 28. That whole thing divided by 3. When you do that on your calculator and you round to the nearest tenth, you get 2,932.3. It is volume, so you're at inches cubed. Next one. What happens here is we don't have the radius, so we got to figure that out. But we do, in fact, have a right triangle. We've got 15 by 17, and I know triples, therefore my triple means the radius happens to be 8. Pythagorean theorem is fine, or know your triples. So then the volume equals pi r squared h divided by 3, which pi, 8 squared is 64, the height is 15, divide that whole thing by 3. And then on the calculator, what ends up happening here is your volume ends up being 1005.3, and then it's meters cubed. Okay? So you're really just plugging everything into a formula. Pythagorean theorem if you need to. Find the volume of each. Does not talk about rounding, which means you need to leave answers in terms of pi. So again, volume, pi r squared h divided by 3. The radius is 5, so it's pi times 25, that's 5 squared. 12 is your height, divided by 3. Don't multiply out by pi, just multiply your numbers, and you end up with 100 pi inches cubed. On this one, same idea. Volume equals pi r squared h divided by 3. Radius happens to equal 5 again. So then what happens is volume is pi r squared h divided by 3. Just see what the numbers. Don't worry about the pi symbol. It just comes down in your answer for 200 pi centimeters cubed. Okay. Next one, a little bit more of a word problem type. The slant height of a cone is 15 centimeters and the radius of the base measures 9 centimeters. Find the volume. So if I sort of draw a cone, I know the slant height is 15, and then it says the radius of the base measures 9. Well, it turns out that I need to find the altitude, and my altitude is going to be formed here with making a right triangle. So again, either you know your triples or you do the Pythagorean theorem. It happens to be a 9, 12, 15, but I will show you that 9 squared plus the height squared equals 15 squared. 81 plus x squared equals 225. X squared equals 144. X is 12. So we now in fact do have the altitude. Volume equals pi r squared h divided by 3. Pi 9 squared, which is 81. The altitude we found to be 12, all divided by 3. It doesn't ask anything about rounding, so just deal with the numbers, and you get 324. Leave pi in your answer. Centimeters cubed. Alrighty, last but not least. Maybe not. Last but not least, if the volume of a right circular cone is 314 and the height is 3, find the value of the radius in terms of pi and to the nearest tenth. So we're looking for two answers here. One's going to be an exact answer, radius in terms of pi, and the other one's going to be a decimal to the nearest tenth. So we've got our formula. Volume equals pi r squared h divided by 3. As it turns out, we know the volume is 314 pi. We don't know r squared. We know that the height is 3, and that whole thing gets divided by 3. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to actually cancel out the 3's on this side because you can. You could cross multiply 2. It doesn't really matter. But then what you end up getting is 314 equals pi r squared. Divide the pi symbol out from both sides. I'm going to stay here and extend up a little bit. So now what you're getting is 314 divided by pi equals r squared. Well, how do you get r? You got to square root both sides. Extend up once more. So the radius, the exact radius, is the square root of 314 divided by pi. That's the exact answer. When you actually do it in terms of the calculator, so what you need to do is just basically do what 314 divided by pi is, and you end up getting, let me just back up here for a second because I do have some values to show you. If we were to go back up here and say 314 equals pi radius squared, if we divided both sides by pi, and here we're kind of doing the actual values, you would get 99.9493 and then a whole bunch of other decimals. Remember, the idea is if you go out at least 4 decimal places, that's going to save you from the rounding. It'd be enough, so your rounding answer would be appropriate. And again, still square root both sides. They're asking you to do this to the nearest tenth, but it actually comes out to be 10.0. So there's your radius to the nearest tenth and your radius in terms of the exact answer. It's just taking a formula, going backwards, and answering it both ways if they want you to answer it. All right, so that's it. You should be fine with the homework. Okay, see you tomorrow.